The diner was loud that night. Clinking silverware, sizzling pans, the hum of tired conversations. But at one booth, everything suddenly stopped. A man in his 50s clutched his chest, his face pale, his breathing ragged. His glass toppled, shattering on the floor. Most people froze, some stood in shock, but no one moved fast enough. Except her. Emma, a single mom working double shifts just to keep the lights on, dropped her tray and rushed to his side. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady as she shouted, "Call 911." Kneeling on the cold tile floor, she pressed down, whispering encouragement to a stranger she thought she might lose right in front of her. And in that moment, with everyone watching, Emma didn't know the truth. The man whose life she was fighting to save wasn't just anyone. He was carrying a secret that would change hers forever. If this moment already moved you, stay with us, because what happens next will leave you stunned. Emma's life had become a balancing act she never volunteered for. By day, she was a mother, chasing after her 6-year-old daughter Lily, making sure homework was finished and bedtime stories were read. By night, she tied on her apron at the diner, smiling through exhaustion as she carried trays heavier than her frame and endured the constant ache in her feet. The bills on her kitchen counter told the truth she didn't say out loud: overdue rent, a shut-off notice for the power, and Lily's school fees marked in red. Emma had once dreamed of college, of building a career, of a different kind of future. But those dreams had been packed away the day Lily's father walked out, leaving her with nothing but a crying baby and a determination she didn't know she had. Still, no matter how tired she was, Emma never let Lily see her break. She braided her daughter's hair each morning with a smile, packed her lunches with silly notes, and whispered, "One day, it'll all be better." But inside, Emma carried a constant fear that all her love and effort still wouldn't be enough. So when that night came in the diner, when a stranger collapsed before her eyes, Emma didn't hesitate. She knew too well what it felt like to be left alone when you needed someone most. Helping him wasn't just instinct, it was who she had become. And what she couldn't possibly know was that this single act of compassion was about to collide with a truth bigger than any bill or broken dream she carried. Emma's hands pressed firmly against the man's chest, her breath coming in short gasps as she counted under her breath. 1, 2, 3. The diner had fallen into stunned silence, broken only by the faint cry of Lily, who sat at the counter, clutching her teddy bear, watching her mother fight for a stranger's life. "Stay with me," Emma urged, her voice cracking. "Don't you leave me here." Finally, the sound of sirens sliced through the night. Paramedics burst through the door, gently pulling Emma back as they took over. Her hands shook, her apron streaked with sweat and spilled coffee, but she stayed rooted in place, her wide eyes locked on the stretcher as they lifted the man. One of the paramedics looked back at her. "You kept him alive. Without you, he wouldn't have made it." Emma swallowed hard, her throat dry. She wanted to speak, to ask who he was, but her voice failed her. Hours later, after her shift ended, Emma sat at Lily's bedside in their small apartment. She brushed her daughter's hair back and whispered, "Everything's okay now." But in truth, her mind was still at the diner, replaying the stranger's pale face, the weight of his life in her hands. She didn't think she would ever see him again. But the next morning, when she walked into the diner, her manager pulled her aside with wide eyes. "There's a man asking for you," he said, voice low. "And Emma, he doesn't look like just another customer." Her heart lurched. She turned, and there he was, standing tall in a crisp suit, eyes searching for her. The man she had saved. And the look on his face promised that her life was about to change forever. Emma froze, her tray nearly slipping from her hands. The man standing at the counter was nothing like the fragile stranger she'd seen on the diner floor the night before. His posture was commanding, his suit tailored, his presence magnetic. When his eyes found hers, he smiled faintly. "You're Emma, right?" Her throat tightened. "Yes. How are you even standing here?" He extended his hand. "Thanks to you." The entire diner seemed to pause, customers watching curiously as the man who looked like he belonged in a boardroom approached the waitress with trembling hands. He set a sleek business card on the counter. The name printed in gold letters nearly made Emma's knees buckle. She recognized it instantly, a name she'd seen on billboards, on delivery trucks that rumbled past her street, on news stories she'd caught in passing. Richard Hale, CEO of Hale Industries. A billionaire. Emma's lips parted, but no words came. She thought of her overdue bills, her cramped apartment, the nights she cried quietly so Lily wouldn't hear. And now, standing before her, was the man whose empire seemed untouchable, a man whose life she had unknowingly saved. "Dinner," Richard said softly, his eyes steady. "I want to thank you properly." Emma hesitated. Every instinct told her their worlds were too far apart. But Lily's small voice carried from the corner booth. "Say yes, Mommy." Her heart clenched. Against her better judgment, she nodded. That night, Emma sat across from Richard in a quiet restaurant, her thrift store dress a world apart from the elegant setting. Conversation flowed easier than she expected. Laughter mingling with stories, guarded walls slowly lowering. For a moment, she forgot who he was. But then, Richard's expression shifted. He leaned in, his voice lowering to a whisper. "There's something you should know," he said, his eyes darkening. "You didn't just save my life, Emma. You saved me from a truth I've been running from for years." Emma's pulse quickened, a chill running through her. She leaned closer. "What truth?" she asked. Richard's jaw clenched, his gaze dropping to his glass. When he finally spoke, his words made Emma's breath catch. "I was ready to let go that night. I wasn't just having a heart attack. I stopped fighting." Emma stared at him, her fork hovering in midair. "What do you mean, you stopped fighting?" Richard exhaled slowly, his shoulders slumping as if he were finally releasing a burden he had carried too long. "My wife passed away 3 years ago," he said quietly. "Heart failure. One day she was laughing beside me. The next I was signing hospital papers I couldn't even read through the tears. After that, everything in my life, the company, the money, the power, it all became meaningless. I buried myself in work during the day, but at night, I'd come home to silence. I didn't want to keep going. And last night, when the pain hit my chest, a part of me thought maybe it was time to just let go." Emma's heart ached as she listened. She thought of her own nights, the ones where she cried into her pillow, wondering how she'd pay the rent, wondering if she was strong enough to raise Lily alone. Richard's eyes lifted, locking on hers. "But then you, this woman I'd never met, this single mom who had every reason to walk away, you fought for me. You didn't let me quit. You reminded me what it felt like to matter again." Emma swallowed hard, her throat tight. She had never seen a man like him look so vulnerable. Richard leaned closer. "And that's why I can't just thank you with words, Emma. You gave me back more than my life. You gave me a reason to live it." Her chest tightened. For so long, Emma had felt invisible, a woman holding her world together with scraps. But in that moment, in Richard's tear-filled eyes, she saw something she hadn't in years. Proof that her choices, her sacrifices, her courage, they mattered. And yet, she couldn't shake one haunting thought. If she let this man into her life, into Lily's life, would it be a blessing? Or another heartbreak waiting to happen? The restaurant's soft glow seemed to fade as Emma's doubts swirled. She had spent years building walls, protecting herself and Lily from disappointment. Words were easy, promises were cheap. But then Richard reached into his coat pocket and set a folded envelope on the table. His hands shook slightly, not from weakness, but from the weight of what he was about to offer. Emma frowned. "What is this?" "Not charity," Richard said quickly, seeing her hesitation. "This is a partnership, a beginning. Inside that envelope is an opportunity, a position at my foundation. Flexible hours, full benefits, a salary that will actually give you and Lily the life you deserve." Her breath caught. She pushed the envelope back toward him, her voice trembling. "Why me? There are 1,000 people more qualified." Richard's eyes softened. "Because qualifications didn't save me that night, Emma. You did. When everyone else froze, you acted. You gave me your courage when I had none left. And that's the kind of person I want shaping the heart of everything I build from here on." Emma's vision blurred with tears. 4 years, she had been invisible, just another waitress with overdue bills. Now, someone was finally seeing her for what she truly was. Strong, capable, and worthy of more. Lily's laughter rang out from the corner, breaking the heavy silence. Emma turned to see her daughter sipping a milkshake, her eyes bright with innocence. In that moment, Emma realized this wasn't just about her. It was about Lily growing up in a world where her mother's sacrifices turned into victories. Emma nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Okay." Relief washed over Richard's face, and for the first time in years, Emma felt something bloom inside her. Not fear, not exhaustion, but hope. Because sometimes, the people we save become the very people who save us in return. If Emma's courage to save a stranger could change her life forever, imagine what the next story will awaken in you. Don't stop here. Watch our Kindness That Changed Everything playlist and let the next twist move your heart even deeper. And if this story touched you, subscribe now and join our Soul Twist family, because the next story might just be the one that changes your life.